The room was buzzing with music and laughter when I realized I couldn't hear anything anymore. Not the bass vibrating through the walls, not the chatter of the crowd, nothing. All I could see was her. Marla, standing under a string of golden lights, her hand resting on some man's chest like it belonged there. His hand was on her waist. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I didn't storm over. I didn't shout or make a scene. I just froze, like someone had pulled the plug on the world around me. People moved, talked, danced, but it all felt like I was watching from the outside. I saw her smile at him, the kind of slow, private smile I hadn't seen in years. The way she tilted her head as he whispered something into her ear made my throat tighten. I left without saying a word. No goodbye, no glance back. I slipped through the crowd and down the staircase, each step pounding louder than my heart. Outside, the night air was cold enough to sting, but I couldn't feel it. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel all the way home. I didn't even bother turning on the radio. The silence felt safer than hearing my thoughts. When the front door opened hours later, I was still sitting on the couch in the dark. She stepped inside, her eyes swollen like she'd been crying. She tried to speak, but I raised my hand, and she froze. I wasn't angry. I wasn't yelling. I was just empty. By morning, I heard her sobbing in the kitchen, whispering my name like I was a ghost. And maybe I was. She stood in the doorway of our kitchen like she was afraid of me. It wasn't anger that scared her. I wasn't shouting or throwing things. It was the silence. I sat there with my hands wrapped around a cold coffee mug, staring at the wall while she sniffled behind me. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked like glass. "Calvin, please, you have to listen to me." I didn't answer. I didn't even look at her. My brain was stuck on the image of her at that party, leaning into that guy like I didn't exist. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but the words wouldn't come out. "Nothing happened," she said. "You have to believe me. He's just an old friend, that's all." Her words sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced them in the car before coming home. I hated how easily she said it. An old friend? Since when do you press your hand against an old friend's chest while he whispers into your ear? She walked closer, and I finally looked up at her. Her eyes were puffy, red-rimmed, and for a moment, I saw the Marla I used to know, the girl who laughed at my stupid jokes, who kissed me when I was too tired to move, who made me feel like I mattered. But then that image shattered. I pushed my chair back, the legs screeching against the floor. "Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I don't know what I saw?" My voice was low, trembling, and I hated how weak it sounded. Marla's face twisted with something I couldn't read. Fear, maybe guilt. She tried to touch my arm, but I stepped back. I needed air, space, anything but her explanations. Without another word, I grabbed my keys and walked out. I didn't even know where I was going. I drove aimlessly for an hour, past empty streets and closed diners, until I pulled over near a gas station and just sat there. My mind wouldn't stop replaying that moment. The way she smiled at him, like he was the one holding her world together. And the worst part? A small, ugly voice in my head whispered that maybe I was the reason she looked at someone else like that. Maybe I had let things die between us without noticing. By the time I returned home, the sun was rising. Marla was on the floor in the living room, hugging her knees, her phone abandoned on the carpet. She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. "I can't lose you," she whispered. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I still belonged to her at all. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing there with him. The way her fingers grazed his chest like it was natural, like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Marla stayed in the bedroom, curled under the blanket, crying so softly I could barely hear her through the walls. I sat on the couch in the dark, staring at the faint glow of my phone screen, my thumb hovering over her contact. I wanted to text her something sharp and bitter, something that would make her feel the way I felt, but every word I typed, I deleted. By morning, the house felt like a crime scene. Quiet, tense, every sound amplified. Marla didn't come out of the bedroom. I didn't want to see her. I kept pacing, wondering if I was going crazy, if maybe what I saw was just a trick of the light or my own insecurities tearing me apart. But deep down, I knew what I saw wasn't innocent. It couldn't be. I told myself I wouldn't go through her phone. I swore I'd never be that guy. But when she left it charging on the nightstand while she showered, I found myself holding it, my hand trembling like I was about to pull the pin on a grenade. I wasn't looking for proof of anything. I just wanted reassurance, something to tell me I was wrong. But what I found was worse than anything I imagined. There was a message. Just one. From someone named R, a name I didn't recognize. The preview on the screen said, "Last night was amazing." My breath caught in my throat. My mind screamed, "Don't open it," but I swiped anyway. There were only a few texts, but they were enough to make my heart pound so hard I thought I might pass out. R, couldn't stop thinking about you the whole night. Marla, we shouldn't be talking like this. R, you didn't seem to mind at the party. Marla, stop. That was it. No emojis, no explanation. Just enough to rip me apart. When she came out of the shower, her hair damp and her face pale, I was still standing there with her phone in my hand. I couldn't speak. She saw my face, saw what I'd seen, and froze. For a second, I saw a flash of panic in her eyes, but she quickly masked it with something else, something like defeat. "Cal, it's not what you think," she said softly, like she'd rehearsed that line her whole life. I laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that comes from humor. It was hollow, sharp, the kind of sound that makes your throat hurt. "Then what is it, Marla? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I think." She tried to step closer, but I backed away, clutching her phone like it was the last piece of truth I had left. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped it. I wanted her to deny it, to scream at me for invading her privacy, anything but the quiet, broken way she looked at me. It was worse than a confession. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You don't understand who he is. You don't understand who he is." Those words didn't sound like an excuse. They didn't sound like a plea. They sounded like a warning. I stared at her, unable to process the tremor in her voice. "Then explain it to me," I demanded, my voice cracking despite my efforts to sound strong. "Who is he, Marla? Who the hell is R?" She swallowed hard, her gaze darting to the floor as if the answer was written there. For a moment, I thought she wasn't going to tell me, but then she whispered, "His name is Rowan, and I didn't want you to know he's back." "Back?" I repeated, my confusion twisting into something darker. "Back from where? What is this, Marla? Are you telling me there's some guy you've been seeing, and I'm just supposed to?" I stopped because she suddenly looked terrified, not of me, but of something else entirely. "Rowan isn't just anyone," she said finally, each word like glass in her throat. He's someone I knew before I met you. Someone I thought I'd never see again. She hesitated, biting her lip. "We were engaged once." My stomach lurched like I'd been punched. She had never, not once in 5 years, mentioned the name Rowan to me. Not a single story, not a hint that there had ever been someone before me who mattered enough to leave scars. I didn't know what to say. My head felt like it was full of static. "So you just ran into your ex-fiancé at some random rooftop party and decided to what? Reminisce?" The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. Marla shook her head, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. "It wasn't like that. I didn't know he would be there. When I saw him, I panicked. It's like my brain shut off, Calvin. I didn't even think about what I was doing." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that what I saw wasn't betrayal, but some messed up, emotional reflex. But then I remembered the texts, and the doubt clawed at me. "Last night was amazing," I quoted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's just a normal friendly catch-up, right?" She winced like I'd slapped her. "He's trying to get to me, to get in my head. He always did this, made me feel like I was under some spell. He's dangerous in ways you don't understand." Dangerous. That word stuck with me. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but something in her tone made me pause. It wasn't just regret I heard in her voice. It was fear. Real fear. Later that evening, I sat alone in the living room while Marla locked herself in the bedroom. I scrolled back through the messages, hoping for more context, but there was nothing else. No calls, no long threads of texts, just that short, suffocating exchange. I wanted to message him, to tell him to stay away from my wife, but I didn't even have his number beyond that cryptic "our contact." It was just after midnight when my phone buzzed. I assumed it was Marla, but when I looked at the screen, my blood ran cold. It wasn't her. It was an unknown number, and the message read, "You don't know what she's hiding from you." I must have read that text 20 times before I even realized I was gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles had gone white. "You don't know what she's hiding from you." It felt like poison dripping into my mind. My first instinct was to run into the bedroom and shove the message in Marla's face, demand she explain what the hell this meant, but something inside me stopped. I didn't want her explanations anymore. I wanted the truth. And it was becoming painfully clear that I wasn't going to get it from her. Instead, I sat there in the dark, the glow of the screen casting a sickly light on my hands. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came almost immediately. "Someone who's trying to save you." My heart thudded in my chest as I stared at the words. Save me? From what? Or from who? I tried to push for more. What are you talking about? What is she hiding? The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, the response came. "You've seen the way she looks at him. That's not the first time." The bottom dropped out of my stomach. I didn't know this number, didn't know if it was Rowan himself or some twisted prank, but the words were like a knife, twisting and digging into the raw wound already festering inside me. My mind started piecing together moments I had ignored. Marla's late nights at work, her sudden obsession with her phone, the times she seemed distant even when we were sitting right next to each other. Were they all connected to this man? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I started digging. Rowan. That name burned in my mind. I didn't know his last name, but I remembered the way Marla had said it, softly, like she was afraid it might break something in the air. I scoured social media, mutual friends, anything that might lead me to him. And I found him. His profile was almost infuriatingly perfect. Rowan Ashford. Smooth smile, expensive-looking clothes, photos of him traveling, Greece, Italy, ski resorts, luxury cars. He looked like the kind of man who had everything handed to him. The kind of man who never lost. And in the middle of scrolling through his carefully curated life, I stumbled across something that made my blood run cold. There was an old photo, tagged by someone else, of Rowan and Marla. Not recent, but not ancient either. It was from about 6 years ago. She was wearing the same kind of smile I saw on her face last night, the one I hadn't seen in years. They weren't just standing together, they were holding hands. My chest tightened, and my mind screamed that I needed to confront her, to throw my phone down in front of her and demand every truth she'd been keeping. But then I saw something else. A comment under the photo from a friend I didn't know, dated years back. Finally back together? Thought you two were done for good. My hands started trembling. Back together? I needed to know what this meant. I needed to know if she ever really left him behind, or if I'd been the placeholder all along. At dawn, I walked into the bedroom where Marla was sleeping, her face tear-streaked, her phone clutched tightly in her hand like she was guarding it even in her dreams. I stood there watching her, and for the first time in our marriage, I wasn't sure if I wanted her to wake up, because part of me feared the truth would hurt more than the lies I'd already discovered. When Marla finally stirred, sunlight was creeping through the blinds, painting the room in harsh, accusing stripes. I was still standing there, staring at her like I was seeing a stranger. She blinked up at me, confused at first, then her face crumpled as she realized I had probably spent the entire night awake, waiting. "Cal," she started, but I cut her off with a single word that sounded like gravel in my throat. "Rowan." The way she froze told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't just a ghost from her past. He was something worse, something alive and present. "How do you know his name?" She whispered, clutching the blanket tighter around her like it could shield her from the truth. "I know enough," I said, my voice shaking with equal parts anger and fear. "I know you were engaged to him. I know you never told me about him. I know there are messages between you two that don't sound like someone who just ran into an old friend. And I know some stranger texted me last night, telling me you're hiding something from me. So you tell me, Marla, what am I supposed to believe here?" Her face went pale, and for a moment, she looked like she was going to faint. She sat up, running a trembling hand through her hair, and I could see she was trying to figure out how much to reveal. "Rowan isn't just an ex," she finally said, her voice so low I had to lean in to hear. "He's dangerous, Cal. The kind of dangerous you don't understand. I didn't tell you about him because I wanted to pretend he never existed, but he's back. And I think he's trying to pull me into something that could hurt you too." I wanted to laugh in her face. Dangerous? This wasn't some crime thriller. This was my marriage, my life. "Stop with the cryptic garbage," I snapped. "You make it sound like he's some kind of criminal mastermind. Is that what this is? Are you protecting me, or are you protecting him?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "You think I cheated, don't you?" she asked softly. "You think last night was me choosing him over you. It wasn't." I panicked. I saw him, and all the old fear came rushing back. He used to control me, Cal. Not just emotionally. He had connections, money, and a way of making things happen if I didn't do what he wanted. I left him because I knew one day he'd destroy me. But he's back, and I think he's watching us. Her words didn't make sense to me. Watching us. It sounded paranoid, insane. But then I remembered the unknown number. The message that said, "You don't know what she's hiding from you." Was that Rowan? Was he taunting me, trying to break us apart? Or was this all some elaborate story Marla was spinning to cover her tracks? I left the bedroom without another word. I needed space. I needed clarity. I went for a drive, my mind replaying every second of our marriage, every small moment where something fell off. I thought about Rowan's face from his profile picture, confident, smug, and I wondered if I was already losing this battle without even knowing the rules. When I came back hours later, the house was eerily silent. Marla's phone was on the kitchen table, buzzing with a new message. I didn't want to look, but curiosity ate me alive. The message wasn't from Rowan. It was from the unknown number again. "If you want to know the truth about Marla, meet me tonight. Alone." I stared at that message like it was a snake ready to strike. "If you want to know the truth about Marla, meet me tonight. Alone." My first instinct was to show it to her, demand to know what the hell was going on, but something stopped me. If she was telling the truth about Rowan, about him being dangerous, then maybe she wasn't giving me the full story because she couldn't. And if she was lying, then this could be my only chance to rip through whatever web she and Rowan were spinning. I deleted the message from her phone before she could see it. My heart was pounding as I did it, like I had just committed a crime. I didn't tell Marla I was going out that night. She had been distant all day, moving through the house like a ghost, avoiding my eyes. When I grabbed my keys around 9 p.m., she only asked, "Where are you going?" I shrugged, saying something about needing air, and her expression tightened like she wanted to stop me but didn't know how. The address in the message led me to an old, almost abandoned parking lot near the outskirts of town. The kind of place that looked like it hadn't been touched by life in years. Cracked asphalt, a few broken streetlights flickering in the dark. I pulled in, my stomach in knots, my headlights cutting across the empty space. For a moment, I thought it was a trap that no one would show. Then I saw a figure leaning against a black car, half hidden by shadows. It wasn't Rowan. This man looked older, rougher, with a face that carried the kind of tired anger you see in someone who's been through too much. He stepped forward when I got out of the car, his eyes scanning me like I was being sized up. "You're Calvin," he said, not as a question, but as a fact. "You don't know who you're married to, do you?" My throat felt dry. "Who the hell are you?" I asked, keeping my distance. The man smirked, but it wasn't friendly. "Name's Everett. And let's just say I know more about Marla and Rowan than you'll ever find in those pretty little texts of theirs." He stepped closer, and I instinctively tensed, ready to get back in my car if he made one wrong move. "Rowan isn't some ex-boyfriend, Calvin. He's the kind of guy who plays with people like pieces on a board. And Marla? She's been running from him for years. You think she just forgot to tell you about him? No, she was trying to keep you out of this mess." I wanted to believe him, but my mind kept going back to that hand on Rowan's chest. "Then explain the texts," I snapped. "Explain why he's talking to her like they have something going on." Everett's expression darkened. "Because Rowan doesn't let go. He wants her back. Not because he loves her, but because she left him, and no one leaves Rowan. He's obsessed with control. I know because I've seen what he does to people who cross him. I've seen what he's capable of." The way he said it made the hair on my neck stand up. There was no drama in his tone, no exaggeration, just raw, ugly truth. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice quieter now. "Because you're next on his list," Everett said. "He'll break you, and he'll do it through her. Unless you figure out the real reason she left him, you're both in danger. You need to start asking the right questions, Calvin, before it's too late." Before I could ask anything else, Everett slipped me a small envelope. "This is all I can give you for now. But if you're smart, you'll look at what's inside before going home tonight." Without another word, he got back into his car and drove off, leaving me standing there under the flickering light, the envelope burning a hole in my hand. I sat in my car for a long time before opening it. Inside was a single photo, Marla, younger, with Rowan. They were standing in front of what looked like a luxury car, but it wasn't the photo that shook me. It was the background. There was a man in the distance, Everett, and he looked terrified, like he wasn't supposed to be there. Scribbled on the back of the photo in messy handwriting were the words, "It started here. Ask her about the cabin." When I got home, Marla was sitting on the couch, her face pale, her phone in her lap. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice almost trembling. I slipped the photo into my pocket, forcing my face into something neutral. "Just out," I said. But inside, I was already planning my next move. That night, I barely slept. The photo and those words, "Ask her about the cabin," gnawed at my mind like a slow burn. I waited until morning, when Marla was sitting at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of coffee she hadn't even sipped. I slid the photo onto the table, my hand trembling, and said quietly, "Tell me about the cabin." Her head snapped up, and for a second, her face went pale. I saw fear flash in her eyes before she whispered, "Where did you get this?" I told her about the message, about Everett, and about what he said. I expected her to deny everything, to spin another half-truth, but instead, she buried her face in her hands and started to cry. Not the soft, delicate crying I'd seen before, but a raw, broken sob that seemed to rip through her. "Rowan kept me there," she finally said, her voice shaking. "Years ago. It wasn't just a relationship, it was a prison. He isolated me, controlled every part of my life. That cabin, I don't want to remember it, Cal. I escaped him once, and I never told you because I thought it would all stay buried. But when I saw him at that party, it felt like the past was crashing back, like I was that trapped girl all over again." Her words hit me like a punch, but there was something different this time. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't lying. I could see the fear in her, and for the first time, I realized I'd been so focused on my anger and suspicion that I hadn't seen the woman in front of me, the woman who had been fighting battles I knew nothing about. I reached across the table and took her hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, softer now. "Because I didn't want you to look at me like I was broken," she said through tears. "I wanted us to be normal, happy. I didn't want him to haunt this life we built." I felt something shift in me at that moment. Yes, I'd been hurt. Yes, I'd seen things that made me doubt her. But this wasn't about me anymore. It was about us. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly as if I could shield her from everything that had come before. "We'll face this together," I said firmly. "He's not going to ruin what we have. Not now, not ever." Over the next few days, we took steps we should have taken years ago. Marla agreed to speak with the police, finally telling them about Rowan and everything he'd done. Everett was right. Rowan had a dangerous history, and the authorities had already been watching him. With her statement, they were able to build a stronger case, and within weeks, Rowan was arrested for unrelated charges that tied him to a string of crimes. It felt like a weight had been lifted off both of us. Marla and I didn't heal overnight. There were long talks, tears, and moments of doubt. But for the first time, we were truly honest with each other. We stopped hiding our fears and started fighting them together. I realized that love isn't just about the good days. It's about the storms, the nights when you choose to stay even when it hurts, the mornings when you decide to fight for each other all over again. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of orange, Marla sat next to me on the porch, her head resting on my shoulder. "You didn't give up on me," she whispered. "I never will," I said, meaning every word. It wasn't the fairy tale ending I'd imagined, but it was real. We found strength in the wreckage, and in that moment, I knew no shadow from her past, no ghost named Rowan, could take away the life we were rebuilding. Not as long as we were facing it together.